Hello everyone, Nicholas Lawrence here, and welcome to Bangarang. As you guys seen from the trailer or maybe a social media video, this is a super visual and fooling effect, and I can't wait to get into it and teach you guys the secret and show you what you receive in the box. So let's take a look at that right now. Let's open the box and see what's inside. One of the first things you're going to see is the envelope, okay? You may actually have an instructional card or you just had it emailed directly to you. So let's take a look at what's inside the envelope. And keep in mind this envelope can be used for the routine, but it isn't necessary, but you can just keep a hold of that. You're going to try to spread these cards and it's going to seem like there's only two, but maybe one is kind of stuck inside there. So the first thing we're going to need to do is carefully just separate. You might not be able to do it by spreading quite yet, so just kind of peel them apart, okay? And place the queen on a flat surface. The jokers themselves, these can actually be replaced if you'd like. If you don't like the tone of these were meant to kind of be like old jokers, maybe like from your first deck of cards. We'll get more into presentation later, but these can easily be replaced if you don't like them. But yeah, so you can just grab a normal pair of red jokers, punch a hole through the centers, and again, we'll get more into that in a little bit. But first, the first thing you want to do is actually just take some of your skin oil, right? Even if your hands are nice and clean, it doesn't matter. You're just going to kind of just lightly press on the queen like this. What this is going to do is it's just going to remove some of the initial stickiness because it's going to arrive and be a little bit too sticky. So basically, if you've done that, now you'll be able to take this and put it between, and you should be able to just kind of spread like this, but you can actually also kind of do a rough and smooth kind of thing here, okay, because this card has a rubber coating on it, okay? The next thing you might notice is that there is a little trap door, okay? This is a 1 card thick gravity trap door that's going to allow this to be sat on a flat surface and appear completely ordinary, okay? Or between the cards, it's going to appear to be completely ordinary as long as it's sitting on a flat surface, whether it be the table or another card or even your hand like this, right? You shouldn't be able to see anything, okay? So now that we know about that, your gimmick itself came in this condition, but actually what you want to do is you want to take this and fold it backward like this, and that's another thing you can do, just kind of press on this as well. Okay, now this is going to happen over time of using your gimmick, but just so that it works perfectly right, right from the get-go, just press it down a little bit. Okay, now you can take this and put it between your jokers. Okay, again, you should have that kind of rough and smooth action like this, where it seems like it's just 2 cards. Now if you were to open up that trap door, you can now see the card is also going to react just like this, and it's going to look like 2 jokers, as long as you're hiding this bit here, okay, which you can use your fingers, okay, and you're only going to be really flashing this very, very minimally throughout the routine, so it's nothing really to worry about. That it does have that little kind of cutout, and I think it blends quite nicely with the design of the joker as well. So now that you kind of see how this works, kind of, let's get into exactly how to perform the effect and some of the main handling itself. I think it's a good idea to discuss kind of just what you guys have seen in the main handling and just the main visual first before we actually get into the details of the routine itself with picking cards and any of that. So first thing first, you guys have removed some of the stickiness from the card by placing this on a flat surface and just dabbing your skin like this, right? That way we can get a nice spread, right? As you see, just by, right? just like a rough and smooth kind of thing. There's gonna be a little bit of resistance, but if you basically just pinch the card and push on the edge, it'll break free, okay? Keep that in mind. Next, just remembering to keep the jokers all lined up. Joker, 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 just like that. And in a closed position, right? So that when you spread, it should just appear to be 2 cards. But also keeping in mind where your trapdoor is. So you want your trapdoor to be close to the spectator. So if you were to look at the cards, you should be able to read Joker just by tilting up towards yourself. If you can read Joker, you know you're ready to do this first appearance, which is essentially just pushing over like this, pinching, right, making sure it clears, right, getting to that spade. You can even see it through this window, and you're just going to gesture forward like this, okay? So that's the appearance. At this point, I like to turn it over like this, turn it back, spread through, revealing their card, turning over these cards like this, okay? At this point, you don't necessarily need to do this part, but I do think it's a nice idea by just pulling down with your pinky on that bottom card and taking this double, right, one of the jokers in the gimmick, and just kind of doing this nice little display like this. All right, you can do it up towards yourself. This is gonna happen very quickly, and in the context, what I'm basically saying is, you know, don't be distracted by the jokers. I want you just to keep an eye on your card. So watch your card closely, right? At this point, it really feels like they're seeing all the cards front and back. So it's not necessary, but it is a nice touch, and it's worth exploring and practicing. But either way, so you've made this card appear. Okay, you can show it cleanly. Okay, place the card back on top. Maybe go back and just show the back one more time. And then you're gonna make it vanish. So what you've seen in the trailer, the most common one, is basically just gripping the cards from the edges like this, keeping it square, pinching on the sides, okay? And what you're gonna do is basically just shift over about a couple millimeters like this, right? And it's just doing that natural rough and smooth kind of functionality, right? And then you're just going to separate by pushing forward and pulling one card backward like this. Now it doesn't matter which side is which, or which hand is which setup, or which cards at least. But what you're gonna do is, after you've done this, you're just very quickly gonna place a joker here, just covering up that trap door, but towards yourself. So that way you can come down and display, right? And then turn the cards over like this. At this point, I really like to do a flustration count. All right, but you can't do kind of the standard flustration count because the holes are there and it's a little awkward. So what I do is I just grip here, here, and here, right? And in the context of that, I'm just saying, no guys, look, it really is gone. It's not here, but it has to have gone somewhere, right? And then at this point, you can pinky pull down. It's probably one of the easiest ways to kind of get into this, and by gripping this and just putting that gimmick very carefully into a composition without hurting the gimmick, okay? But they're so distracted by where the card's gone, whether it be in a spread deck or a box or in the wallet, wherever you like, but you're gonna be in this position here where you can basically take this right to your pocket. And a smart little touch, of course I'm gonna get more into this with the routine, but is to use the envelope that you have the jokers in the beginning. Put this into the pocket you're gonna ditch in. So that way you can ditch the gimmick as you pull out the envelope. All right, so let's talk about the actual flow of the main routine and some of the presentation and how you're gonna actually have cards selected and all of that. So basically, you know a lot about the gimmick now. You're gonna have this set up in this position, so that way it just appears to be 2 jokers, okay? I like to keep these set up into the envelope, and I like to have them set up in the position where they can read the word joker when it comes out. So like that, right? So those can be here. Obviously you're gonna need your force card, right? The Queen of Hearts. And what you're gonna do is essentially, you're gonna force that card. So you can do like a riffle force if you like, just by placing in the middle of the deck, keeping a pinky break, riffling through the cards. When they say stop, you're actually just gonna pick up at that break. So that way they can get a good look at the queen. At this point, you can just kind of square up the cards like this, right? Keeping that break, and then just doing a double undercut, right? By cutting that card 2 times up to the top of the deck, right? So that's a pretty basic thing. But there's other ways to do it. You could also do like a cull force, which, you know, sometimes what I'll do is I'll cut the card down about 15 or 10 cards like this, and I'll just spread, and then I'll stop at their card. I'll cull the card to the bottom of the deck like this. Now they can touch any card they want, right? Whatever card they touch, I square these up, and again, I get that force. At this point, okay, now you do need to kind of transfer this card a little bit. So what I'll do is kind of spread out the cards a little bit like this, just so that I can keep it on this portion of the deck, because you are going to need to control that to the top of the deck. You could control it to the bottom. Let's say we didn't actually do that move. Let's say we were here, you know, and they looked at that card, and you just went right to a break, and you controlled it to the bottom, right? At this point, you would just do a shuffle and just kind of milk that card all the way to the top, right? Just like that. So basically, after doing chunks and chunks and chunks like this, once you start getting towards the end, you just start doing individual cards, right? And it'll put that card at the top. That's another option. At this point, what I like to do is just make sure that they're really visualizing that card and using their imagination to see that card in their mind, see the colors, see the shape of the card, see everything. And that way you can kind of flow with this a little bit better, because this trick is going to be about imagination and how their imagination can become reality. So at this point, what I like to do is a double lift, okay? And you can use any double lift you know. You can pull back from back here, do like a strike double, anything you like, but you're going to turn over a card that isn't theirs. And you say, this isn't your card, right? Okay, great. So it's not on top of the deck. Perfect. It's somewhere in the middle. Okay. So what I've done here is I've reversed their card and this card here. Okay, and I say, look, this isn't your card, is it? I turn towards myself and I remove just that card, leaving their card face up still. If you reverse it like this, you can square it on top of the deck, right, without them seeing, and start to spread through the cards. And you can just say like, good, well, your card is somewhere in the middle of the deck. At this point, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to take these cards, right, that have the queen, and I'm actually going to put them in the middle. So it's a very, very kind of subtle way to cut the cards. And I think it looks really nice. So now you've got a deck of cards in this condition. Their card is in the middle of the deck reversed. So if you think about that, they just think that they've looked at a card and then it's shuffled into the deck, right? You've proven that it's not on top of the deck, and then you're just going to hand them the cards. So when it comes back to this kind of kicker ending where their card is reversed, it's even that much more fooling and that much more magical. So again, you could put those in their hands or on the table. Now you're going to introduce the jokers, right? So just by removing them like this, right, we've already gone through kind of how to handle these a little bit. But one of the first things I like to do is just spread them like this, okay? Using my thumb to block that trapdoor. So as long as it's hiding the front of the trapdoor and the cards are kind of in this flat position, they shouldn't be able to see this. Now, if you don't like this, you could also just turn the cards over or have them in the envelope the other way and do something like this, which is a lot more difficult to flash that, right? Or it's just not gonna happen, right, in this position, which is nice. So you're just gonna spread like this, you're gonna show, right, turn them over. You can show really cleanly on this side, there's nothing to flash on the backs. Essentially, you're gonna go into your favorite way to make it appear or vanish or whatever you wanna do. So as for the main routine, again, as long as the joker is here at the top, you know you're ready to do this appearance like this, which just looks super stunning in visual, and it's really cool, right? So definitely practice that one. That's my all-time favorite. But at this point, right, we're gonna show the cards. We've already kind of ran through this where they see the card, and you can do whatever extras you want if you want to show the back of the queen with the move from the previous segment. But essentially, you're gonna make that card appear and then vanish. Now, kind of before you get to this, as a presentation's sake, I think it's really cool that we can talk about the soul of the card, right? I think it's really interesting how you could maybe ask the spectator to imagine removing the soul of their card from the deck and just throwing it towards you. And when you do that, right, as soon as they throw it towards you, it's like the magic has happened, right? They have imagined it and it's physically happened right in front of them. Now, of course, they're not going to react quite yet. They might get a little bit of a reaction, but you're really going to get an eruption when people see that it is actually their card, right? So that's the moment of the first strong reaction, making their card that they're just thinking of materialize right here, right? So kind of moving on from this, right? You're now going to make it vanish. What you could do is you can actually do this soul bit where you remove the soul like this, right? And place it back into the deck. Now, there's some little things here that I think are really strong. So first things first, you say, look, actually, you know, I want to try something with a deck. Let me turn it over like this, right? And just turn it over, right? And then what you're going to do is you say, look, I'm going to try this time. But again, I want you guys to see the magic happen. So you say, you remove the soul, you put it into the deck like this. They're not seeing anything happen, but then when you go into that vanish, like this, now they actually see the moment that that card vanishes, right? You say, look, it's really not here. And you're gonna spread through the deck, right? Now they're gonna see one card face down. They're not gonna see their card anywhere in here, right? It's not here that they know of. And they're gonna be so distracted by wanting to turn that card over. It gives you the perfect moment to basically just use your thumb here to spread these cards apart, right? Getting this card into like a cop position and then putting the jokers on the table. And of course you can now go straight to your pocket, ditch this in your pocket as you pull out the envelope, okay? And now you end completely clean, right? So this is just a nice walkthrough of how I perform this effect, start to finish. A little bit about presentation. Again, I really feel like you guys can really make this about yourself and how you want to perform this. But I'm pretty sure I've covered the mechanics of how this actually works. And let's go ahead and move on to some extras. Let's talk about some other variations on how to make the card appear and vanish. So now that you know the basic functionality of the gimmick, you might now have seen some things in the trailer that make a lot more sense now. So maybe the first being one of the easier ones. Let's see, let's make sure our jokers are all lined up in our gimmick, right? And that is this one here, where basically it just kind of looks like it just, you drop the cards and it vanishes. Now, I did teach you guys the original handling first because it is the most practical and the easiest to do. These ones are just a lot of fun to practice and they may or may not work with you. But keep that in mind and just explore and have fun. So this one looks really cool. It's basically where you show that queen in the middle, and just by kind of dropping the bottom joker, it should look like one of the cards vanishes, right? Now, it can be a little bit angle sensitive, and the more that you use your gimmick, the more your trap door is going to fall down, right? But essentially, let me just fold this back and forth just a little bit. This is a fresh gimmick. But essentially, just by kind of dribbling the cards, right, and just letting one of those cards go on the bottom, you should get a really nice visual vanish of that queen. Now, if it falls down like that, it's okay, right? You just do it again until it vanishes, okay? Now, the trapdoor is just in this position here, and all you have to do is just kind of go forward, hit the trapdoor on your fingers as you square everything up, and then you can show, right? Just like this. Now we're going to talk more about displays and how to display the jokers before and after the vanish. But for now, let's just focus on some of the other appearances and vanishes. This is another really cool way to make the card appear, which is a springing of the cards, right? Just looks like that. You just kind of spring the cards. With the spring handling, I don't 100% recommend it, as it does add some stress to the gimmick. But the good news is we're going to get into repairs later, and it's fairly simple to repair your gimmick. So if you do like the look of this, you can definitely explore it. So basically, in this position where it's just the two jokers, you're going to spring the cards as you just seen, like this, and the card is just going to appear. Now, this really is basically self-working once you understand how the spring works, which essentially you're using just the tip of your finger like this, right? The tip of your middle finger, and just bowing the cards, and as you spring, the trapdoor is just gonna close, and that's it, right? So you can do it on the table, you can do it into your hand. I feel like you have a lot more control of it when it's in your hand, and less risk of flashing the trapdoor. But that is definitely a lot of fun and something to explore as well. Another fun one is this one. This is actually one of my favorites, and it's really, really cool. Basically, once you know the setup of your jokers and which direction the trapdoor is going to fall, you can do something really interesting, and it looks very, very natural. You're just going to spread the cards, right? You're going to get it in this position, right? And you guys have probably seen this in the trailer, where basically you set up the trapdoor right in front of them, and just like that, you're going to see it looks like the card just vanishes, right? It's a really nice vanish, and you know it's actually surprisingly pretty simple as well. So as you spread through the cards, you're just going to take the joker and place it so that you can see the heart through the hole. At this point, once you lift up, the trapdoor is already falling because of gravity. You're going to use the other card to assist that trapdoor completely open, right, and get it into this position here. Okay, I like to use my right hand and just pinch everything so I can lay it all down into my hand like this, and then just allowing everything to kind of square up into a mechanic's grip like this, but trying to get it at a nice steady speed, and it's just going to look like that card just vanishes, right? You can instantly spread, right, really show that it's gone. And again, another really fun thing to practice. Also just do it in this position, which looks really cool. All right, you secretly set that trap door, so now you know that if you, so the trap door didn't get set on this one, which that's okay. I just had the cards reversed, that's all. So basically you get into this position, so the trap door sets when the card gets pushed in, it's gonna vanish. So you can either just do that quickly, like this, right? And it's just gone. You can do it more on like a mysterious level, which I think is really strong, right? Where they can see it like this, and just as you cover the card, it looks like it vanishes. That's fun. So moving on from this, okay, we'll set this back up, is, going back to previous, very, kind of similar gimmicks in which, you couldn't show the full card, but there was like this flicking motion. Because this is a flap, you can also just pinch and riffle the front of the cards and get a nice vanish like that as well. What's interesting about that, just something to explore while we're talking about it, is you can experiment with color changes of the cards as well. So you can have the queen set up like this, do that riffle, and it looks like the card just changes, right? And that queen is now nowhere to be seen. So that's really fun as well. Guys, these are just some fun applications that I think are going to kind of get you starting to think about how you might want to use the gimmick. You might not have to or want to use it the way I do it. Some of these ideas might spark something for you. So let's just kind of keep going with this. Another option, which is kind of interesting, and I didn't put it in the trailer because I haven't actually explored this fully, but feel free, is basically, it's almost like a kind of like a Sharpie through card moment, but it's with your finger, and you use that for the vanish. So essentially what we have to do is we have to get the gimmick to the bottom of the stack, so that way they're convinced that it's in the middle for this moment. Again, this isn't fully fledged out, but I think you guys are gonna dig this, and if you do, feel free to kind of work on it. So basically, if you can secretly get one of the jokers to the top, right? Now you can kind of be in this position here, right? That, of course you can just shake the card and it looks like it just vanishes, right? Because now the trapdoor is on the bottom. This opens up a lot of doors. Again, I just haven't explored it fully. But what I think is really cool is this moment here. It's basically, you kind of get into this position like this, you take your finger and you just push it through the cards like this. So now it's almost like just like a penetration of their chosen card, right? Which should be pretty fooling. But what's cool is once you get here, you can actually kind of come upward, which is really interesting by just blocking this trap door. It's a nice convincer that the Joker is on the bottom and their card has to be in the middle, right? Because they don't know what a double facer is, right? So you're kind of hearing this motion and it's like, wait a second. Did it just, did you just put a hole through that card or did it completely vanish type thing? So again, just something to play with. I think you guys are gonna like it. But again, guys, these are just a few ideas to kind of get your gears turning on how you might use Bangarang. All right, so I want to tell you guys about this cool DIY gimmick that you can make that makes this trick super easy, and it's just another thing to explore. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make this forcing card that vanishes instantly in the deck. It's going to kind of look like this. You're going to riffle through the deck. They're going to see a card, and it's going to be the Queen of Hearts. Not in this case, but it would be. You're going to riffle, and then you can spread the cards, and it'll be gone, okay? So I'm not really exactly sure where this originates. I know it is a very old concept and it's super easy to make, and I think you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with it. So basically what you do is you're going to just trim off some of the two of spades, right? It could be any card, but basically just like this, just trimming off about 1 millimeter of that card, okay? Now if you guys have a corner rounder, you can get one of these. These are really cool. But even if you don't have a corner rounder, you can just use a pair of scissors and just carefully just trim off just like this and make it look pretty round. So it's not 100% necessary, but you can see it can be accomplished, right? So next thing you're gonna do is take some glue stick or double stick tape, anything like that, and you're gonna apply some to the bottom edge of the indifferent card. So not the Queen of Hearts, but the indifferent card. Just put a little bit at the bottom like this and stick those two cards together, okay? And what's gonna happen is because of that little bit of edge that you took off when you square these up, you have a little edge right here, right? You can see that, right? And basically when this is in the deck, right, once this fully dries, of course, when you riffle through the cards, there's going to be a little bit of an edge that you can always stop at. So it's like you just time it out. They say stop, and you just roll back your thumb right when they say stop, right? Like that. They're going to see one card. You keep riffling through, and then of course now when you spread through, you can see the two, but you can't see the Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts is completely gone. So that's just a fun gimmick that I thought you guys would really enjoy playing with and maybe applying to your routine. It's worked really, really well for me, and I think you're gonna enjoy it. Another thing to mention is these hole punchers. So again, if you guys didn't really like the vibe of the old kind of looking jokers with holes, the colors of the cards were a little bit different than a standard bicycle deck. Again, that's something that really doesn't go noticed because there's never a time where they're really close to each other. And even if they were, it's just something people don't really notice or care about, especially when everything's examinable, right? They just assume what you're saying is correct. They're from a different deck. Maybe it's a really old deck. Either way, if you want to use your own jokers, pick yourself up a 3/4 inch hole punch. Okay, this is something you can just get right on Amazon. And yeah, you're just going to go ahead and just punch out, right? Just making sure that it's as centered as possible, right? And you're just going to punch out your own jokers just like this. Or you can use maybe kings or whatever you want to use. Maybe you want to use queens. Maybe it's the two queens kill their good sister, right? The Queen of Hearts. Maybe it could be something like that. You can get creative with this. But again, just something to mention. Another thing with this is kind of repairs, right? So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you've used this card for a long time and this trapdoor eventually does wear out and it starts to split off. Now I'm just going to go ahead and remove this kind of carefully. I don't want to make it fray or anything like that. But basically, let's say you're in this position, this is broken off. Well, guess what? Don't freak out. This is actually a really easy thing to fix. You literally just put a piece of clear tape from here to here. Just make a new hinge out of clear tape and you'll be good to go. Just keeping in mind that just like the Bangarang gimmick, you always want it to be stored in its open position. That way it puts a really nice crease in that cellophane tape, and it allows it to always want to be in this position. But with gravity, it will sit very nicely in this position as well, so that way you can't see anything. And the best part, nobody would ever see that tape because they're never seeing this section of the Joker anyway. Your fingers are always there. When you do the frustration count, they're seeing the really clean Jokers. So definitely something I wanted to mention so that way you can get the most out of your gimmick. Another thing is basically this is a rubber coating on the card, which is basically a Plasti Dip spray. This is a matte, clear Plasti Dip spray. Let's say you're not really too fond of that and you want to use like a roughing stick, or you want to use roughing spray. Well, you can very carefully, just by rubbing your finger on this card, right, and essentially scrubbing it with your finger, you're going to start to see little bits coming off the card. You see that, right? Just keep going like this, and very carefully, you're going to go over the entire card, being very careful around the edges here, right? But basically, after removing all of this, you're now going to be left with a completely untreated card. Now, that brings up another interesting point. Besides actually using your own roughing fluids or a roughing stick, you can also experiment with no roughing at all, just using pure sleight of hand to maintain your doubles throughout the routine. That could be a very interesting thing for you guys to play with. But it's something I had to mention. And yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up on kind of a little bit of DIY stuff. And yeah, just trying to cover it all for you guys. But let's go ahead and move on to what's next. Alright guys, so that's a wrap for Bangarang. I really hope you enjoyed everything that was taught and you're excited to practice and perform this effect. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out through the website, or you can just contact me on my email, which you can see that right here. Hopefully it should pop up. Great. Guys, thank you so much. And until next time, we'll see you.